social politics or things of this nature. Like we go off on tangents. It's been 50 minutes, man.
I know, man. Well, we're never gonna get to champion Blurby.
Well, we're on Blurby now. Let's talk about Blurby. Black Lashley, Blasner, Blashley, whatever you want to call him. Blashley's really good. I just made that up. That's really good. I'm Blashley. Where is he? I'm here.
Oh
It
man.
can be just as simple as putting a WWE title around the waist of a dude with an in-cave chest. Blashley?
The irony is that would have been a good name for one of his sisters, but they didn't race cast them right.
He didn't do anything about
Remember
that, really.
Static?
Oh, jeez. So he won the W title, and I have some things to say about this. I'm not on the Bobby Lashley hype train currently because I went through the last 4 years. Like this is like the nerd becoming the quarterback his last game of his senior year, and then going on to Ohio State as a freshman to start. It's like I'm not buying it. You played one game, homie. How you starting at Ohio State as a freshman? No. But on the other side of things, like this was long overdue, and this was how he should have been introduced. So like
Yeah.
I'm torn. I'm emotionally conflicted because Bobby Lashley deserves this. He's a star. He's a stud.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, I still feel like they own like this is WWE. So like I know it. They only concentrate on doing this over the last 3 months. They have such a narrow-minded idea on how to promote talent that you know what they're building to the minute they build it because they start doing something so aggro and out of the norm that you know what it's building towards. Miz randomly wins the Money in the Bank title, and now he's dealing with Bad Bunny. Yeah, you know he's going to win the belt eventually because that's what they're pushing him for. They don't know how to push somebody into a stasis place where he can jump in as needed and win, and people are excited about it. They can only do it when they intend to do it. That's just how
Yeah.
messed up this whole company is. So, like, on one hand, I'm super happy for Bobby Lashley because he deserves it. He's a star. He was great in Impact. He was great his first run in WWE. But I also feel like they didn't do enough with him to put him over in the best possible way for when this moment to happen that he became the star he is. Now, us in the know, wrestlers around the world, various companies, we're all happy about it because we've seen this dude bust his ass. He's a stud. But
Yeah.
we make up maybe 10% of the audience. Does the normal everyday WWE viewer see this as the big moment that it should be? I don't know that answer. Like you and I are so far into the quote unquote know of the industry. I don't know always what tracks with the casuals. This may be a big hit for them. It may just be a whatever kind of moment. I hope it's a hit though because Bobby Lashley's phenomenal, and I know we're all hoping for Brock Lesnar v Lashley at
Yeah.
WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And this is we've talked about it for so long. He seemed like he's, done nothing but talk about it, even long before he came back. And that's really one of the main reasons I think why he came back, besides kind of redeeming that himself just in the company like a lot of guys do when they have to leave unceremoniously. But and it was cool to see it. I forgot. I think maybe it was a Sports Illustrated interview or something where he acknowledged that Impact run and talked about how that
Mm-hmm.
prepared him for be a world champion. Because it was just refreshing to see. Because a lot of guys try to pretend like the whole Impact stuff didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like that wasn't a time you actually got showcased as the main talent that you could have been elsewhere. But that was real cool to see. When it comes to Lashley, man, I mean you're absolutely right. Like you said, we're part of this in the know type of wrestling zeitgeist, and the last 4 months have been cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
Long overdue, like you said. It's been 4 years of being jumped, guys jumping out of wedding cakes and three three white uh men dressed up as women to be posing as your quote unquote sisters and God knows whatever else. I think he was bending over in the ring smacking his ass for something at one point.
Yeah,
Like
that was with
it
Lana.
it was just it was ridiculous, but you did that for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And like you look at it, like I used to be one of the biggest. Ziggler fans out there, I, I turn it when he comes on now because they ran that man's character into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And with Lashley, the great thing is he absolutely 100% looks the part in every sense, fashion, and him adding things like, um, that killer one-handed dominant spine buster he does, and now he's added the full swinging full Nelson, the master lock that he now calls the hurt lock, which is great. He's upped his arsenal, which has made him even more
Mm-hmm.
dominant. And I think bringing MVP has really been a key component. Obviously handing him the mic and creating the hurt business and then putting some consistent momentum behind those guys, has also added to it. Um, but yeah, I mean, and again, it's hard to judge, like you said, because they also don't have a live audience, and we know they pipe that noise in.
Mm-hmm.
So all they really have to judge from is social media, which I think everybody was elated. I'm not saying Miz doesn't have any fans, which we'll get to, but I think everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall, and this was the time to pull that trigger. We've seen it with guys that they pulled it too early, like going back to Chris Masters. He was brought in way too early and pushed it. Well, I don't think he was ready. And then
He
we've
was only
seen them pull the
20.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
and then we've seen them pull the trick on people too late. You know,
Samoa
um,
Joe.
yeah, and it's sad. It takes stuff like guys like Punk leaving the company probably when he was, still on a high in terms of perception. Obviously not in terms of health because that was one of his main reasons for leaving. But it takes guys like him leaving for guys like Brian to get some momentum behind them because they ain't got no choice.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at Lashley, it's almost a late perfect storm in a way. And even though it's great to see, and people, I saw somebody tweet like that picture of Kofi holding up the title and then Lashley holding up the title, and it was like they'll never know how much this means to me. As a fan, I get that as a fan, but it's like just everybody enjoy the moment, but pump the brakes because it's always now what they're gonna do with it. That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are they gonna do with it? Because everybody's calling for Lash, and I'm hoping that's where they go with it. I saw somebody was like they probably gonna do a triple threat, him, Lashley, and McIntyre, which is a good problem to have in terms of three credible guys to win a championship. But at the same time, it's like, do we really want a triple threat, another WrestleMania event? Like we've been wanting to see this Lashley Lesnar thing for a very long time. This is the closest they'll get to right now to Godzilla and Kong,
Yeah.
and that's not making a reference to LeBlanc is the black guy Kong. Shut up. No, that's not the reference that I'm making. But yeah, this is the kaiju battle that
Yes.
they can literally make to make that event big because I would imagine Vince is not going to try to have another WrestleMania fanless.
No.
So,
And as the black guy, I feel like you can make that Godzilla Kong reference and not have to explain who's who. So we're good with that. I don't often ask you your opinion with regards to your race being the primary function for your opinion because I don't like boiling people down to just how you were born. But this is now the second black wrestler who's held the big belt in the company in the last 2.5 years. Now
yeah.
you, unlike so many other wrestling fans, have been an Impact fan. So Ron Killings, Bobby Lashley, Rich Swann, you've seen this pretty consistently.
Hmm.
Jay Lethal in Ring of Honor. But does Bobby Lashley holding this belt maybe, what was it, 2 years ago Kofi won it? So
Yeah.
I guess we could say pretty quickly, considering it was 20 years between Kofi and The Rock, and a lot of people don't think The Rock is completely black. That's your opinions to have, people. You can have them or not have them. I don't care. But seeing
Yeah.
two black wrestlers at the top of their game, with especially with Lashley on Raw with that belt, that's the Pinnacle brand with the Pinnacle title.
Hmm.
When Kofi won it, he was
Yeah.
part of SmackDown, so it's not seen in the same light. I don't want to say not in the same light,
Yeah.
but it's like there's a difference between the World Heavyweight title and the WWE title. But this is like the big crowning moment. Does this
Yeah.
matter to you more because it's a black wrestler, or because you've seen it enough times that while you still respect it, like it, you love to see it, it doesn't hit you the way it may hit someone else who doesn't watch other wrestling products?
Yeah, I think because of how long we've been watching this and like I think it hits me, but it hits me in context to where it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I know he's in that WWE bubble, And for a lot of people, it does mean a lot because we know the how often this doesn't happen, but I also know like who's running the show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just how fickle that type of procession. I mean, it's hard to even pin it down because you just really don't know. The damn shows are so all over the place. You really don't know what's going through the guy's head at any time. But if history is to be believed, it's not necessarily clearly it's not been the best when it's come to black talent. Now we you
Mm-hmm.
know we at a time where we got Sasha Banks, Bianca in a prime position spot, Lashley, um, Benjamin and Cedric with the tag titles. Um, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I just think, and I do this with a lot of stuff now. I just kind of measure it in context because you don't want to get the rug pulled from under you, and that's really what this company has consistently done more than anything over the last decade plus.
Mm-hmm.
Because as great as it was to see with Kofi, and they gave it an earnest shot with him, but I think that could have been better. But again, it's they all suffer from horrible creative. Look how they took him out of it.
Yeah.
He basically was dog walked, and he didn't get a rematch. And when you look at how they took him out of it, it's like, do you want to even see a rematch with the guy that took it off him? It was a non-starter. So with this, like you said, it was overdue. It was cool. I think we'll get to Miz who played his role. Um, but to me, it's what they do afterwards because everybody was gung ho when Lashley first came back to the company, and like I said, 4 years of blurby. We came with that joke for a reason. It was that you couldn't take Lashley serious when he was freaking with Lana. MVP had to come along and yank him away from her.
Yeah. Do
So
do 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 do.
absolutely, you over the moon about this. And you're a wrestling fan who is black. I 100% get it. I'm just saying, just remain centered. 'Cause we got more shows to go, and this company has cut off his nose despite its own face more times than we can count.
This ain't the end of the movie, folks. Let's see if it's the romance comedy we hope it is, or if it turns into a horror film. Speaking of horror film, let's talk about The Miz.
The king of transitions does it again.
So I don't know what the hell they were doing here. Now, on one hand, you put the belt on the marketable guy. Like that's just I get so tired of the IWC. Oh, I really want Cesaro to win the title. Why? Why? If there was a walking human version of the taste of white bread, it'd be Cesaro. He's not that good in the ring anymore. He's still really good, don't get me wrong. But he's 40, and there are guys who are better than him now, who are younger, less banged up, far more charismatic. Cesaro should never have a world title run. Christopher Daniels should never have a world title run. Guys like Jerry Lynn maybe shouldn't have had a world title run in Ring of Honor when he did. But the general idea is you put the belt on the guy you feel best to market. With Lashley, all you got to do is like I forget who it was, but I think it was like Jason Momoa, and he's like throwing his arms out to show the person he's next to. Like that's all you need to do with Lashley. You just point to him. And okay, that's marketed. With Charlotte, you do the whole name brand, Ric Flair's daughter, even though she's like, I don't want to be Ric Flair's daughter. Then, lady, you ain't going to have a reason to be on television because that's all you are. But you look like Pentagon. He's cool. He's still Skull Ninja, and he's, I guess, cool. Like, we like that. But with Miz, like, what were you even going to do? Like, why even transition it? Like, I don't get that. I don't want to see another Drew McIntyre Bobby Lashley match. I've seen all of them. Literally. I'm good. You could have had Lashley beat McIntyre, called it a day, build up to Lashley Lesnar, or anyone Lashley, and I would have been fine with it. But instead, they do this whole little thing. It's a 2-week kind of moratorium for him and his feud with Bad Bunny. We knew that it wasn't going into WrestleMania to face Bad Bunny. At least we hoped. I kind of suspected they might because it's the WWE, and why not? But I don't know where he goes next from this. Like, this was his last shot, I think, to really get over as a headliner, and he didn't. Now, people were excited about, like, oh, well, let's see what can happen. But this booking of The Miz kind of shows you where the WWE sees him. They don't see him as a guy who can carry the company. And if you can't carry the company for a spell as a top guy, then you should never win the belt. I just think it's that simple. Marcus, do you think The Miz ever gets back into the title scene?
Damn it, I was on mute. Yeah, I don't think so. I think Miz, and I said it before, he's done better than a lot of people in terms of navigating the meticulous waters that company puts a lot of superstars through, being on that hamster wheel so often. Specifically, when you're not on top, you just kind of you're muddling, you're spinning around in the mid card. Some people not even that. I think he's done a lot in terms of broadening certain aspects of that character at times. I mean, obviously he went and did those Marine series and other stuff, and came back with the Hollywood gimmick. He's been more actively intent with putting certain fresh aspects of that character, because he's been there God knows how long, and he knows what it takes to maintain. And I've always thought that was commendable with him. Clearly he's no Shawn Michaels, but he gets certain things done. When it comes to this, and I think I'm gonna throw this to you, like, how much do you think momentum he was never gonna be able to gain because of how poorly booked this whole Money in the Bank scenario was, with him just getting it off of Otis?
I think. Oh man, it's like a Magic the Gathering card game. Like you compound it on the compound on the compound. So one, the Money in the Bank briefcase was never going to help him, whether it was 2011 or 2021. It was always a dead in the water fish idea, and it will always just hurt people who win that belt or win that that briefcase, because it's just not it's just a bad gimmick. It doesn't generate or create the stars that people think it should. On top of that, Miz has not been booked well for a decade, 13 years. He hasn't been booked since, when did he debut? 2007. He hasn't been booked well in 14 years. So fans have kind of glommed on to him, so to speak, mostly because they appreciate his perseverance. He's never let the lack of success or the lack of headlining spots deter him. He's always put in his best work. He's always put his best foot forward. He's always tried to do his best, and fans respect that. Miz, though, even as a heel, has wanna-like-itis. Everyone wants to like him, but they don't. So then you compound the fact that the Money in the Bank briefcase is bad. His entire career has been mostly misbooked, because he should have been a headliner. Like, with his gimmick, his charisma, he should have been a headliner. And then you compound it even worse with the whole, I wanted to call him Otto. That's not right. That's not his name, is it? Otis. You compound it with the Otis stuff and the slapjack booking that they were doing. And it's even worse. And then you hotshot his win over McIntyre, and then you hotshot his loss to Lashley. And if you could do a trifecta of terribleness in booking, this would be that. This is the royal flush of terrible booking card hands. I won't say it'll hurt him, but it didn't help.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason, one of the real reasons why I asked that, because I was thinking about it, I'm like, the way that they booked that whole thing with, you know, I don't know what the idea was with Otis, but clearly either they didn't have any idea about a plan, I should say, in place when he got it in the first place, or it immediately got scrapped, and they had to figure out a way to get it. But the way that they booked that whole Money in the Bank scenario, if there was a situation where McIntyre was absolutely like on 1% left on his health bar after the chamber, and Miz came out to cash in, the way that they booked that Money in the Bank briefcase, Lashley could have jumped him, took the case, cashed in, and just took the belt that way, and I don't think anybody would have cared.
No, I don't think it would have helped Lashley either, but it wouldn't have mattered. It was always going to be a bad transition. They didn't do anyone in this scenario right, so. But it's WWE. What do you expect? You know, it's
Yeah.
it is what it is. Speaking of is what it is, there's a new rumor going around. I pressed the wrong button again. I gotta catch up to it. There we go. There's a new rumor going around that Access TV may in fact bring back, not Impact, New Japan Wrestling. This would be great, Marcus. I would love this. I don't know how viable it is. I don't know how serious the talks are, but the partnership since Fred Maiji or Myers or Maharja or whatever his name is, ever since he's left, the relationship between New Japan and Impact has grown exponentially. We've seen Finjuice. We saw, not Swan, Chris Bay. We saw Chris Bay go over to New Japan for the Best of the Super Juniors. Was yeah, Best of the Super
Chris, but yeah.
So we're starting to see them work together. Finjuice has a world tag team title shot at Sacrifice. So there's stuff going on here. I don't know if it happens, but Marcus, if New Japan does land on Access TV, what would you like to see the content of? Knowing specifically that the content originally was taped shows, edited down with Jim Ross and Josh Barnett doing commentary over them in kind of like a compilation. So like if they did a tour of 4 shows, you'd get like 4 matches from those 4 shows with commentary from Ross and Barnett. How would you like to see this? Ranging from anything from live events, airing live on Access TV, like what's coming up next? Budokan or no, it's the one, the single elimination tournament. What do they call that? The New Japan Cup.
Yeah.
That's coming up. Like, would you want to see all the New Japan Cup matches aired live? Would you like to see like a recap show? Would you like to see New Japan Strong, I think is what the U.S. stuff is called? Would you like to see something different? Like, what would you like to see?
Man, it's so many, and it's funny because talking about like it seemed like we just came out of the New Japan Cup with all the tournaments that they was having back to back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm a little turn it out.
Blasphemy.
I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. But it can happen. But yeah. I think for me, man, I think guys like, and they did this to a certain instance too with some of them tournaments. But guys like I think was it Desperado that just won the title?
Yes, he won the light heavyweight title.
It'll be cool for me to see more guys like him, like Bushi, Sonata, just names that don't necessarily get a lot of shine. Like it's hard, being in a group like Lij, and it's like Hiromu's the guy. Then you got Takagi killing it, and then all of a sudden Naito's the lead. Situation is easy to kind of get dusted. So I think somebody like Desperado, names like Bushi, Sonata could just use any type of momentum right now because he done lost so many big matches at this point. It's ridiculous. But I think I like to see just less thought about guys on a consistent basis to get the time to kind of shine and show improve. Because and I don't know if that's in live events because that'll be kind of tricky over here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't necessarily have the same temperament when it comes to listening to all the rules as Japanese fans. But I would hope that we would, but who knows specifically with a new wrestling product, but probably something like that. Lesser names to get bigger opportunities.
I'd like to see something like that. I'd also like to see maybe like a recap show. Like they were experimenting with it kind of on YouTube with Chris Charleston, I think his name is, where he did. I think they still do it too. Although I haven't been watching it, the recap shows. Like that would be cool. Like actually have him in like a studio, and like do it like an ESPN style thing, like once a week, and then do the New Japan US stuff that they're doing. I think it's called New Japan Strong. Have that air live or first to air on Access TV. I think that would be a great kind of way to both bring New Japan back into the fold, but also cater to the American audience without having to worry about any cultural differences to worry about. Because the New Japan Strong stuff, I think, is shot in California, Access TV, I think, is based in California, or has a studio in California. So like, it's possible. I think you could do that. Maybe even do like a studio show with New Japan Strong. I think that'd be cool as hell. Like they were talking about doing a studio show with Impact, kind of like what NWA was doing with Power. So I think that could be cool. But speaking of Power, we got we got something to talk about before Power. Marcus, news broke over the weekend that New Japan was going to unify the IWGP Heavyweight title and the IWGP Intercontinental Championship to create the IWGP World Heavyweight title. Some people are upset about this. I will tell you my opinion after I hear yours. How do you feel about the new title and the new announcement of the... Because, to be clear, New Japan never had a world title before, because they've always been a Japanese-centric company up until 4 or 5 years ago. So this is an official world title now. Do you have concerns about it? Are you mad that they're getting rid of 2 belts to create one? General feelings. What are they?
The concept of them having an actual world title for the first time, like you said, is cool. It sucks because for me, kind of falling into New Japan and becoming a huge fan of it, I grew to really have an appreciation for all their titles. Because now all their titles, that they've been part of the best company in terms of having, a large amount of titles and keeping each one of them relevant in some form or fashion. Some have been more prominent than others at times, but I think that just goes with the territory. But consistently, obviously, the heavyweight championship and the IC have always remained, top tier. And specifically the IC has such a lineage with it, as does the heavyweight. But, that IC specifically has been such a measuring stick, a la kind of how the IC and WWE used to be, for, if not the guy that's about to be the guy. So, yeah, it's the end of an era, and it kind of sucks because, like I said, I think they did a good job of keeping, all those titles relevant. I think guys like, I think at this point the IC strap was something like guys like Sonata or other names in that Elk, Evil, so on and so forth could have been going for, because they've been kind of, like I said, they've essentially eliminated themselves out of the heavyweight contention because it's kind of piss to get off the pot in some of those guys' narratives. But man, it does kind of suck because like I said, that IC has such a lineage to it. I mean, you attribute names like Tanahashi, Nakamura, obviously recently Ibushi and others with that strap, and to lose it, I don't know, but maybe this was the whole thing all along, because that was the first time where they had a double champion in the first place. Maybe this was what they was planning to do all along. Maybe it wasn't. If it wasn't, that sucks because that's a WWE move. If I ever saw one from New Japan. But yeah, it's just real disappointing right now. Like I said, the concept of a new championship is cool, and specifically, like you said, the first world for New Japan. But it's like I don't know if I necessarily remove something with that much relevant lineage to it.
Yeah, I think you could have done this without the merger, and I said it when it was rumored that it would happen at Wrestle Kingdom this year when Kota won it, that I wasn't a fan of the idea. And I'm not necessarily a fan of this now, but I'm not an opponent of it either. I'm just not a proponent of it. I like the idea of unifying or recertifying the main title as a world championship and allowing a redesign of the belt, because this may be blasphemous. I've always hated that belt. It just looks so dumb. It looks like a little kid put on a Burger King crown. Oh, good job, Billy. You found the cardboard.
Yeah,
I'm not impressed.
And that IC strap is gorgeous.
Yeah, so it's one of those things like there are things about this I like. There are things about this I don't like. I like you. I don't think that this needed to happen because they've always done a great job booking their belts. Tanahashi's the never openweight champion. Moxley's just defeated Kenta to retain the U.S. champion. They got some belts. They got some talents. But I think the thing that I think justifies this when they brought this belt in, they had a young Okada, Tanahashi in his prime. They still had, oh God, why can't I think of his name? I keep wanting to call him Sonata. Nakamura. There it is. They had Nakamura. They had a great crop of young talent that we're now seeing take over the scene, like Jay White and Finn Juice and all them. You had great name value, though. I do not think, as you could argue, the talent roster has not shifted in terms of talent. Even though they lost AJ Styles and the Good Brothers, they lost Kenny Omega and Cody and the Young Bucks, and Hangman Page and whoever else. I don't feel like they lost talent with the guys they're replacing with. Hinari is great. Jacob Cobb is fantastic. So there are a lot of guys still on that roster that has great talent. I don't think they have the same name value. Because think about who their first IC champion was. It was MVP. I don't see a lot of guys right now that have the abundance of high quality names. Naito, I don't think, is a top 3 dude in terms of name value. You know, there's a reason why they don't put the belt on him, or at least not often. You know, so I think getting rid of the IC title also allows them to not have to worry about having so many guys in the big scene at the same time, like they were doing 3 years ago when you had your AJ Styles, or 4 years ago when you had your Kenny Omegas, you had your Nakamura's, your Tanahashis, your Sonatas, and all of them. Now you don't need to worry about that. You can focus on a core group of guys and integrate new guys in to see how they work. Because the next one for Ibushi is going to be. Who is it? Desperado, I should say. Desperado. He's going to get the next title shot at whenever the next show is. I'm so on board with the scheduling. I know everything. But they're going to have Desperado, I think, challenge Ibushi for the title in Shuriken Hall, I think. So they're giving new guys opportunities. Oh, and you also can't forget about the fact that Shibata had butted his way into retirement. So there's been a lot of top names that have left the company in the last years that have kind of made the IC title less relevant. The U.S. belt exists to cater to the U.S. market. The light heavyweight belt exists for the light heavyweight guys, tag team for the tag team guys. And I think the never open weight, considering how well guys like Ishii and Goto and now Tanahashi have all kind of branded with that belt. I think that set of titles, the never belts, have raised in popularity as well. So I think the IC belt has no longer has a function anymore like it did 10 years ago. So I it makes sense. I understand it. I don't necessarily like it, but it also opens up the opportunity for new, and new can be good. I'm okay with new. Let's see how this goes. And to be fair, the belt's been unified for almost 2 years now. Right? Anyway, we haven't had an IC title match since what, 2020, 2019, 18 months or so. So you know, they definitely made sure to do it at a time when we wouldn't miss it as much.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and I definitely like that point, like you said, man. Because we've seen the elevation. Because if we had to, we go back to pre-COVID. If we was ranking the pools of the titles, it felt like the one that would probably be at the bottom would be, I think the triple never open weight. Um, and then I think those have been elevated in a good way, and then the never open weight has kind of been finding its way, but that's been elevated by guys like you said, Goto, Takagi, and now Tanahashi. Um, and the IC, in a way, has kind of maintained at a certain level. Um, so in that respect, it'll be interesting because, like I said, I think when you do something like this, thinking about it now, it does put them in an interesting creative corner
Mm-hmm.
to get themselves out of in terms of like I know, what you're missing, but look what you gain type of deal. Happen, whatever. I think they can pull it off because they always, like I said, they are more consistent than most of the companies in that regard. But it'll be interesting to see because I do think there's a sense of mourning with that because at least that title was there, and like I said, it feels like the U.S. belt went on excursion. Has been on excursion for a while, but it
Mm-hmm.
feels like they're going to be getting that back soon. So we'll see, and that's the opportunity for that belt to elevate in a way. So like I said, we'll see what they do with it. I trust them. It's just this was a kind of head scratcher, not at all too different from them putting the damn belt on Evil. But with their credibility, they allowed a couple head scratches.
Yeah, I think they've earned the right to show what they can do off of a decision like this. This isn't the WWE booking black talent. We don't know how this title thing's going to go in New Japan. We know how it's going to go in the WWE. Unfortunately, because it's the WWE.